Hello, this is Dr. Kamani, licensed clinical psychologist. Welcome. You are here for a conversation about joy for Black women and asking yourself, are you connecting to your joy? So, we have an all-star panel here today. So, hopefully, by the end of this conversation, you will have an opportunity to reflect on you connecting to your own joy. My shirt says Black Joy is Revolutionary because it is. When you think about us as a people, we go through so much, but as a people, we have still retained our joy too. My hope is that you can connect to your joy. So again, I'm Dr. Kamani, licensed clinical psychologist. Welcome to my channel, Lifting Us from Climb Consulting Wellness Services, where I focus on helping to support Black women healing and leaving toxic jobs. So I'm going to have my all-star panel introduce themselves, and the structure of the panel will be I will present a question to the panel, and whoever wants to answer it will answer it, okay? So I'll start with, as I see you on my screen, Alecia Renece.
Hi, I'm Alecia Renece. I am a multi-passionate artist. I'm a creative facilitator and a serial hobbyist. And so thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thanks.
Roshini, or Glamazini.
Sure. Hi, my name is Roshini. I am a video creator and a life coach, and I am a Black woman healing, helping other Black women heal.
Thank you. Stephanie Perry.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Perry. I'm a house sitter. I'm the creator of House Sitter School. And right now I'm house sitting a dog who found every squeaky toy that I hid from her. So sorry about that. And I co-host a virtual summit that helps Black women take sabbaticals and career breaks from work so that they can do what they want to do in the prime of their lives.
Thank you, Stephanie. Terree.
Hi, my name is Terree, and I have a YouTube channel called Life After 50 with Terree. My target audience is women that are over the age of 40 and beyond. And basically what I like to focus on is helping women redesign their lives after midlife.
Awesome. Awesome. Leslie.
Hi, everyone. My name is Leslie Salmon Jones. I'm the co-founder of AfroFlowYoga, which is a combination of yoga, dance, and live music. You'll see all the instruments behind me. I'm a co-founder with my husband, Jeff Jones. In 15 years, we've been doing healing circles around the world, retreats, workshops, and bringing our ancestral wisdom and teachings to our healing spaces.
Yes, thank you, Leslie. And just to let everyone know, full disclosure, I'm in the AfroFlowYoga teacher training program. So I'm very proud about that. Yay. Colette. Can you hear us, Colette? Colette Elizabeth? I think Colette is having some technical issues, but when she works it out, we'll have her introduce herself as well. Okay, so we're going to get started. So many of you watching may know that I've talked about toxic jobs for a while because I am a toxic job survivor. Also, as Anne-Marie Archer and I are having a masterclass to talk about healing and leaving toxic jobs. So I'll tell you more about that a little bit later. But as a toxic job survivor, what I've done is I have really made it my mission to help other Black women heal and reconnect to our joy, right? So when we think about toxic jobs, you may be thinking, why is she talking about joy right now? I'm talking about joy because many times when you're in a toxic job, it's a joy robbing situation. It sucks the joy out of you, okay? So I really want us to connect to our joy. So I'm going to present this to the panel. So when I do therapy with Black women or I coach Black women, when I ask them, well, what do you do for fun? What brings you joy? Like literally there's like a deer in the headlights. Like they are like, I don't know. Like I can't remember the last time I experienced joy. So there's a disconnect between their experiences of joy. So to the panel, have you had that experience as well of being disconnected from joy? And what was that experience? What was that like, and what contributed to that disconnection?
I guess I can share my experience.
Okay.
I think that sometimes we are pushed this narrative that the things that bring us joy and the things that bring us pleasure and fun are like the reward. And so I think for me, I was like, no, I have to work hard. Like I have to be diligent with my things. And then as a reward, I'll experience joy. And so what I realized is that the more that you put off joy, the further it gets away. It doesn't get any closer. Like you just find more and more reason to not actually have fun, to not give yourself permission to experience joy. So I think, with the pursuit of degrees and, even working jobs and like working overtime and stuff like that, like you think like, okay, I'm going to save enough money and time to experience joy, but then you're too exhausted. So then you have no time, so it's like this cycle that you keep falling into. So yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And that joy is something you have to earn.
Yes.
Right?
1,000%. Yeah.
Yeah. That labor and joy go together. And we're like, no, that's a lie. Okay. Thank you. Terree, I think you came off of mute as well.
Yeah, I was just going to say, kind of echoing what she just said, is what I did is I substituted joy with success. So chasing the degrees, and for me, my measure of success was what my parents had. And so it wasn't until later on when I had accumulated the stuff or the things that I was like, but I'm still not happy, not really experiencing joy. So yeah, I would have to say the same, we pursue success as opposed to pursuing joy.
Yeah. So looking for that external validation as opposed to looking at that internal, and joy comes from within. Right?
Absolutely.
So thank you, Terree. Anyone else in terms of feeling that disconnection from joy, and what was contributing to that disconnect? Leslie?
I'll answer. I'll say many, many years ago when I was a teenager, actually, and I started working, and one of my first jobs was in retail. And I was just on fire, and I had some people, a boss that was like really mean to me, abusing their power with me, and I realized like it really shrunk me. I shrunk, and then I also went through a very disconnected experience where I lost my light and my inner light. And I went through a spiritual crisis. And so from a very young age in my 20s, I had to rebuild myself from ground zero. And one of the questions I asked was like, what brings me joy? And so I've been actually from that place really, really working. I never worked for anyone after that. I was like, not allowing anyone to rob me of my joy. So I've put in my career, my work, my life, really that question in the center.
So centering joy.
Centering joy, centering the heart space.
Oh,
because my head can lead me one way, but my heart will never lead me astray. So it's a priority to listen to my heart.
Yes. Yeah. And what I think is so powerful about that is that, Leslie, you took your power back. So when we're in situations, toxic jobs, toxic bosses, bad relationships, or whatever, if we're in situations that dim our light or tell us to dim our light, that's a red flag.
That's right.
And that disconnects us from our joy. So it's important for us to be aware of it and to know that we have the agency to not withstand that. We have the agency to say, no, this is not the place for me. We have options. I think a lot of times Black women, we feel stuck in these toxic jobs or situations, but we're here to show you there's a way out. Okay, there's a way out to connect to your joy. So thank you. Thank you. What about you, Stephanie and Roshini?
Can I say something about what Leslie said? Because I love that.
Yes.
So I had a season a few years ago where I was really focused on joy too. And I came up with a definition for joy for myself because I was trying to figure out what I was actually aiming at. And so I love what Leslie said, because my definition was, and still is, joy for me was when I had a settled confidence in my agency to create my life. And the minute I worked that out, I think there's like a YouTube video a year or two out where I actually said that, I started making all kinds of changes because I stopped being a passive victim in my life and started asking myself what I wanted, like what brought me light, what brought me joy, what brought me peace, what made me feel safe. And then I started to actively create it. So I love what Leslie said because, that was how I started to regain my joy, because I had a season where I identified that what was missing was my confidence in my agency to create my life. And I just went into a pit.
Wow. So really the self-inquiry. So that's how we take our power back, is thinking, does this bring me joy? So honest self-reflection. And I think it's important for us as Black women to pause and first do that, because we're so busy, we're running around, we're juggling all these different things, but just, when we're not feeling well, we're like disoriented or unsatisfied with our life, to take a step back and say, does this bring me joy? That's powerful. What about you, Stephanie?
Basically, like my entire 30s was me ruminating over the things I didn't have in my life, the things that I thought I should have had and didn't have, and then stealing my own joy, right? I don't know that, I was a different person. I call her Sad Stephanie, right? I was a different person then. And it was because I felt like not only did I not have these things, but I was powerless to get them. And that that this was going to be all of me, right? My whole life from here on was just going to be me being the person who didn't have the things that I thought I wanted or needed to be happy, to have the joy, instead of realizing that the joy, as you said, the joy is inside. And as Roshini said, I have agency, like I have the power. I didn't know that. And I spent an entire decade of my life in that pit, right? In that place of despair and despondency and sadness and feeling helpless, just because all I could see was what I didn't have instead of what I did have.
Yeah, I want to take a step back and really thinking about what all of you have said. So we've talked in terms of really feeling that disconnect, getting our power back. I want to take a step back, though, like what Stephanie was saying, in terms of we're stealing our own joy in some ways. Okay. So that really speaks to, just being in a rut. I talked about this before. So being in a rut in your life. Okay. Can we talk about if you've had experiences of you doing this to yourself in many ways, right? So not allowing yourself to experience joy. So we talked about the external influences. Let's also talk about within us. Have there been times that there have been that internal critic that didn't allow you to experience joy? And can you share with the audience what that was like? Because I think a lot of women can really relate to that, Stephanie.
It sucks, right? What's it like is it sucks. It's because you don't recognize it, right? And even when someone points it out to you, you think they're wrong, right? They're just out to get you, or they just are being mean to you, or they just don't understand why you're so different, why this situation is so different, right? So maybe so-and-so could be helped if she looked at life a different way, but everything is worse for me, right? It's a terrible place to be in. And it's so easy to get tricked into thinking like, well, this is just how I am, right? This is just who I am. This is just how I'm going to be.
So like a resolve, like like there's nothing better for me. No. Like going in a black hole, right? Absolutely. Yeah. Oh God. So others, have you had experiences of you stealing your own joy? And what was that like? What contributed to that?
I second that. I think some of the stuff that I learned was internalized. And so like I kept thinking for myself, once I become successful, once I do the thing, then I'll be able to be happy, right? Then I will be fulfilled. But it's like, really, what am I really looking for is not fulfillment. I'm looking for permission, right? Permission from someone else to be like, you're allowed to be happy now. You're allowed to experience your joy. But I think like Stephanie was saying, like, I had to give myself that permission. Like, it's not about other people seeing something in me. I have to see it for myself, right? Because other people are not going to give you permission. And they might look at you sideways and you haven't earned that, or, what have you done to deserve X, Y, and Z? And it's like, you have to be brave enough, because you will get some pushback. You have to be brave enough to be like, you know what? No, joy is not dessert. Like, joy is the way. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, joy is the way that I want to live my life. It is the thing that I want to center. It's not suffering. It's not sacrificing. It's not, I don't know, like ruining yourself until someone else recognizes that you're good enough. It's about you seeing yourself as good enough today, right now, even as you're in process, right? And saying like, even as I'm in process, the process can be joyful as well. It doesn't have to be the destination, like the whole thing. You know what I mean? So,
yes.
So, yeah.
And you know, it's so funny, Alecia, it reminds me of my shirt, right? In terms of Black joy being revolutionary, is that as Black people, we're not taught, society doesn't talk to us about being joyful, right? Society teaches us to grind, to work, all these negative things to be that's killing us. And so when we say, no, I reject that, we get backlash. And sometimes the backlash is from other Black people, right? No, girl, you can't do that. No, you got to keep grinding. No, you got to, but it's not helpful to us. And so it's important for us to say, no, I'm doing what's best for me. And I want to reconnect to my joy. And I don't need to wait for external validation or permission for me to experience joy. So thank you. What about others in relation to
So
that?
yeah, so I'll say committing myself to doing things out of obligation and a sense of duty. So I'm the oldest of 4 kids, and I think a lot of times the oldest child gets a lot of responsibility placed on them. So the idea of even putting things that my parents maybe thought were priority, deprioritizing that for pursuing joy was never something that I thought I had access to. Right. And so I did something that was pretty big for me, and I still haven't told my parents about it because out of, I guess, concern, right, of what they're going to say, because there's a certain image or whatever, right, that they want their kids to have. So for me, I put it off for a very long time because I was worried about not looking responsible, you know. So yeah, the whole sense of duty thing was really heavy.
Yeah. Well, congratulations on doing that. And it's so funny that we're all grown women, but there's still that sense of like pressure about, am I going to upset somebody? I remember when I left my toxic job, I didn't tell my mother for months, right? Because I knew she was going to be disappointed, and having that level of fear about how other people view us. So congratulations and saying, this is what I want to do. Okay. So as we think about, you know, really thinking internally about what we need for ourselves, not being our own robber of joy. What has been your process of being able to do that? Because that is not common. Most people are not living a joyful life. What was the process, or what can you share with the audience about the process of learning to connect to your own joy? Leslie?
Yeah, I would say going back to that period where I decided, I'd say basically there's so many societal conditionings. As we're raised, we're told a certain thing, or whether it's like culturally or in our family. And I really did have to do a lot of deep inner work, that self-inquiry, to figure out what messages were mine and what belonged to me and to my authentic self, and what belonged, it did not, was no longer serving. So I had to go through a whole level of cleansing, mentally, spiritually, physically, and emotionally. And do an inventory to see, and then look at the messages that I was telling myself, because I wasn't aware of some of the subconscious things I was saying. Like, for example, I'm not worthy. So that's one that I would look at. Oh, I say this, and maybe it you know, I remember my mom used to just say it, and it so sort of jokingly, and then I would start. I took it on, and then what I would have to do is like go into my subconscious mind, write down those messages I was telling myself, and then burn them.
Yeah.
And create something new. Create a new neural pathway that actually would feed my joy, that would feed my heart, that would feed my soul.
Yeah.
So that was the rebuilding. And then thinking about things that I'm taking in my body, physically. What am I eating? What am I drinking? Maybe I, you know, when I was younger, I used to go to McDonald's when I was a teenager. Like, eat, and that would give me so much joy. You know, I'm going to order a Big Mac, French fries, and a large Coke. Well, later on, obviously, that was not a habit that I wanted to continue. So cleansing and thinking about even things I take into my body.
Yeah.
And what those things actually physiologically do to me, and
Yeah.
how they can actually give me more energy and therefore give me more joy. So like going through mentally, spiritually, physically, emotionally, and aligning with those things
Mhm.
brought me joy. Bring me
Yeah.
joy.
So doing like a overall scan assessment, right? In terms of like, what am I feeding to myself, and what are the messages that are being fed to me? Are
Mhm.
they healthy or not? And then deciding what you need to do. And Leslie, I want to make you proud in terms of AfroFlow Yoga. So in terms of releasing what no longer serves us and calling in what we need. So that's what we're doing right now. Okay.
There you go.
So what, what about the rest of you? And I actually want to hear from all of you in terms of your process, because I'm really curious in terms of, as you've been on this path to connect to your joy, what has been the process? Because as Black women, all the messages are telling us negative things. Okay. So how are you taking those revolutionary steps and connecting to your joy? What has been your process?
I'll go.
Okay.
I think, first of all, it's been a long process and it's still happening for me.
Yes.
When I look back, I started paying attention to the results of other people who were giving me advice. And I
Mm-hmm.
started to realize that I didn't want what they had created. That's what started it. And so it started in all the places. I mean, it has moved from my hair to like Leslie said, what I eat, to how I think, to like my job. It just started to permeate. I just started asking other questions, really listening, like my son's teacher says, with my listening ears. And when somebody would give me advice, I would always be like, but do I want what they created? And then I started asking different questions and searching for people who had created what I wanted. And so every journey that has happened in all of the spaces, like Leslie said, like literally every space has been that pathway for me of realizing, I don't think I want that. And then, like I said earlier, realizing, I have a choice. Which was like, when I tell you that was revolution, that unlocked something for me that I cannot explain. You guys, I have a major depressive disorder diagnosis. I'm supposed to be under here crying. And something unlocked in my brain and said, wait, I get to choose this? And then I just started looking. I just started seeking. I just started asking other questions. I just started like ignoring the advice that was coming at me that created something else, and like adamantly searching for what I wanted and learning to ask myself what I wanted, because I don't even think I knew, so all of that was the pattern that happened in all of the places. And that's why joy for me has such a big component, at least for me, of agency, because it was the thing that unlocked like my thought processes.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. You talked about really going against the social programming of who you were supposed to be, but also, and I talk to clients about this a lot, about look at the source, like who is telling you this? Like you just said, look at the person who is telling you this, look at their life. Do you want to follow? Like, are they credible? Are they living the life that you want to live? So that's something I'll talk about. And then I also want to connect to you also in relation to when we think about depression, a lot of times depression comes from feeling a sense of helplessness, hopelessness. And we feel that sense of helplessness, hopelessness a lot of times because we don't feel like we have choice. Okay. And in connection to what I talk about with toxic jobs, a lot of Black women are in these toxic jobs because they feel like they don't have choice, or they feel like I don't want to step out and do something that other people are going to criticize me for. But what we're saying here is for your own well being, for your own sanity, that you need to evaluate for yourself what brings you joy. And also look at, is this something I want for myself, or is this something that somebody is telling me that I should do? Right? Thank you. Thank you. What about the rest of you in terms of your process? Because it didn't just come to be, right? So what was your process?
A lot like Leslie, I just started listening to what listening to the self-talk, right? And then just reprogramming it, right? Why do I say this to myself? Why do I talk to myself in a way that I wouldn't talk to anybody else? Right. Even a person I didn't even like, I wouldn't talk to. Right. Why am I talking to myself like this? Why is this playing in my brain? Why do I believe these things? Right? Because it wouldn't be in there if it's in there enough that I've been believing it. Why do I believe these things? And then what do I need to do to reprogram that? How do I get that out of there? I don't want it. I don't want it anymore. Some of that, and that happened because I gave myself a whole lot of free time, right? I have a life where I get a whole lot of free time, a whole lot of quiet time, a whole lot of time that is not obligated to anybody or anything. And I can just listen, right? It's really been a wonderful gift. And then on the second step, or I guess, or I like steps. So the second thing I think I did is I just realized that there is a place where I feel like I can just be my joyful self. If I think that joy is my natural state, and there is a place where I can be my natural self, and that is in the company of Black women. So I decided to keep myself in the company of Black women. That's all. That's who I talk to. That's who I hang out with, who I spend time with, who I listen to, who I get lessons and teachings and learnings from. I lean into it. I don't try to force myself to do something that I don't want to do. Right. So that's how I've been able to reclaim my own joy and spread it.
Yeah. So Stephanie, let me ask you. So when you had time alone, you were able to reflect on your life, right? And you were able to say, wait a minute, why am I being so mean to myself?
Yes.
Let me integrate this. Let me challenge this.
So when I say free time, I mean literally time when there's nothing happening. No music, no TV, no reading, nothing. Like I spent a lot of time just sitting, right? I don't know that I'm good at meditating. I don't know. Can you be bad at meditating? I don't know. I don't know if I'm good at meditating, but what I do know is that I can think on a thing. Just hear something that strikes me and think on it until I can really hear what's in there, right? What's really in there? What do I really think about this thing? And I could hear myself just saying the worst things to myself. I'll tell you a thing that I used to say to myself. I lost a child in my early 20s, and for 20 years after that, literally 20 years after that, whenever I would hear that a woman was pregnant, I would say to myself, everybody but you.
Ooh, for 20 years?
20 years.
Ooh, gosh.
20 years. I was over 40 when I stopped doing that. Everybody but you gets this amazing gift that you're not gonna get it. You don't deserve it, right? And it took me that long to acknowledge that that's what I was saying to myself. And it took me a matter of days to wipe it out. I don't know if wipe it out is the right thing, but I did some heavy reprogramming. Right.
That part, the reprogramming. Can you share with us what that was? Because a lot of us do this. How did you reprogram yourself?
A few different approaches. One was just affirmations. That's going to seem really simplistic, but seriously, I replaced everybody with the source of all abundance is within me. Anytime I felt any kind of lack or any kind of lack of abundance, I would say out loud and I would write it out. The source of all abundance is within me. And then I just started thinking about the why did I feel like me losing my child was like some greater punishment when it's not a I would never say that. Not only would I never say that to anyone, I don't believe that. Right. I don't believe it for anybody. Right. So it took some thinking about why do I think that, going back to when in my life, therapeutic techniques, right? When in my life have I gotten the message that things are punishments, right? Turns out it was the church. Okay. I'm not here to blame Jesus, but I'm here to say that I did have a real child's understanding of some things, right? In an adult body. Yes. A child's understanding of punishments and gifts and, blessings and curses walking around in my adult self. And I had to tear all of that down, tear it down.
Yeah. And I'm glad you brought that up because that's another form of social programming. So we get it from our family, we get it from the church, we get it from our community, we get it from society. So all these messages are telling us who Black women are to be. And again, a lot of times it's not to our benefit, right? So saying, no, I'm not going to do it. So you said, Stephanie, I'm not going to be my own worst bully. I'm not going to do that. That's not what I want to be. Okay. Thank you, Stephanie. What about the rest of you in terms of your own process of going to connecting to your joy? How did you do that?
Yeah. So for me, I realized that the tension that I felt was not, it wasn't because there was something wrong with me. It was because of systems that people put on me, right? So I felt this tension a lot, like I'm doing something wrong. I'm doing something, in my, like, that's flawed, that I'm ending up with this sadness or depression, right? And so even at my job, we talked about this before, but at my job, my back was deteriorating. My depression was really bad. I had to go on FMLA because I couldn't show up to work. And so I was like, what's wrong with me? I kept saying, what's wrong with me? Why can't I be normal? Why can't I do what normal people do? And I realized that maybe the problem isn't me. Like maybe the problem is the system, right? Yeah. And so it really took me, like everyone's saying, like it's a process that's happening now. Like even though I'm experiencing a more joyful life, I still feel like I have a ways to go, and I will always be processing, and becoming more and more joyful. But I really had to go back to treating myself like a child, like giving myself permission to be a kid, like to really start over. And like I'm in this process of unlearning a lot of things, right? Of remembering myself, like literally like putting myself back together. But it takes me being taken apart again. Like all this stuff that was added on to me was not necessary, was harmful. And even stuff that was given to me that was given with good intentions, even that stuff, right, that we're given, it's kind of like, but it's not serving me. Like we're all individual people with individual dreams and needs and ways that we want to serve. And sometimes the system that we exist in doesn't really allow us to meet the needs that we need to serve, right? And so I think breaking it down, taking myself apart, and then remembering who I was, remembering what brought me joy, like being able to savor. Like I remember being a kid and loving running around outside. I love being outside, right? Like, so maybe I need to be outside, whatever I'm doing. So every morning I go for a walk, and I'm not running. I'm not trying to like lose weight or anything. I'm just allowing myself to be in nature because it makes me happy. So I think sometimes it takes us reflection, as everyone's saying, reflection. I'm questioning things. Where did I get this from? Can I put this down and replace it with who I really am? And being okay with starting over, like starting from scratch and being like, I don't know, even if I can't remember everything about me, I know that I like nature. Let's start there, right? Like, let's just start there and then go and figure out what we like later on, and giving myself the ability to fall and stumble on my face and pick up something and say, I didn't really like that, put that back down. And it's not a failure. Like everything is not a failure. It's just living life, So treating myself like a child has really helped me reconnect my joy.
And loving kindness for ourselves and having that curiosity. And when you talk about, many times we're so disconnected from ourselves, we don't even know what brings us joy, right? So that's something I talk to my clients about a lot is, what did you like to do as a little girl? Like, what gave you joy? What did you love? Like your stomach was hurting because you would just laugh so hard. And I would help them connect to that little girl. And I think a lot of us have had, now, sometimes we have trauma in our lives too, but there's sometimes a joy too as a child. And that innocence and that curiosity, we need to be able to connect to and give ourselves permission to. Because sometimes I hear, I'm too grown for that. I don't have time for that. I'm like, well, why not? Right? So being punitive, and you're challenging the notion that joy has to cost money. Like, oh, well, I can't afford it. No, you can go outside. You can look at the sun. You can take a walk. You can smell a flower. It does not have to cost a lot of money. So thank you for sharing that. What about for you, Terree?
So you all hit the nail on the head, I think, giving yourself permission. So that was a huge one for me. And I did something kind of drastic. So anyone that I knew was going to be in opposition to what it was that I wanted to go for, I cut them off. Temporarily, but I cut them off. I did not answer phone calls. I did not answer text messages because I did not need those outside voices in my head, because I knew that where I was at, I was like, this can't be it. This can't be all there is, right? I was living in Alaska, started hating it, and I was like, I gotta go. And I think too, coming to the realization, and it's so funny, I didn't realize I was middle-aged until I was about to take my daughter to college. And I was like, wait a minute, I have a lot more years behind me than I do ahead of me. So if I'm gonna change some things, I need to do it now. And I think that leaving that place that I grew up in and moving somewhere else really helped. And then also when my daughter went away to college, I was able to have a lot of alone time and that quiet time that you all spoke about, to where you can really hear your inner thoughts. And there's a lot of chatter, right? That's still there from things that you've been kind of conditioned to. But when you sit long enough and give yourself the opportunity to just listen and hear, you start hearing yourself come through. And so definitely giving myself permission and, you know, doing battle with the whole, okay, well, this person might think that and might say this, you know, and like I said, I think cutting, some people I had to cut out just for good, right?
Yeah.
And that was hard.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you can have family members that are more toxic than maybe some of the people at your job.
Yeah.
And so, you know, it's been a lot of just, you know, figuring out what's serving me, what's working for me, and just going forward with that.
Yeah. I call those people, you may have heard, I talk about energy vampires. So these are people, like, you're around them, they drain all the energy out of your body and they just take, and they might be in your family. Okay. So setting boundaries with them, either limiting contact or sometimes cutting off contact. If it's not good for your well-being, your mental health, sometimes you have to do that. Now, Terree, you know what? I want to bring something up. I just thought about something. The reason I reached out to you, so I watch all of these women, right? So the reason I reached out to you, I was watching a blog you did, and you talked about bitterness and joy. And you talked about the role of bitterness robbing you of. Can you talk a little bit more about that in terms of bitterness?
Yeah, so I believe that bitterness is a whole different type of hurt. It's not, I mean, disappointment is kind of entangled in that, but bitterness is something that is buried deep, deep, deep. And there were people that I had experiences with, and I felt like I had forgiven them. But in some of my therapy sessions, my therapist was like, it sounds like you have some bitterness. And I never thought about that, because to me, bitterness sounds really harsh. It sounds,
Right.
and what actually, no, this is what happened. So I was watching a woman who was talking about an experience that she had with someone. And I was like, wow, she sounds so bitter, you know? And then for me, I'm a spiritual person. And what came to me was like, yeah, but you have bitterness too, right?
Ooh.
And so when I went to my therapist, we started talking about that. Well, I didn't mention the bitterness thing right away, but she was like, it sounds like you might have a little bitterness. And so resentment, yes, but bitterness, when I hear that, it's like, I don't know, I attach, if you're bitter, that means that you're also toxic for some reason. I don't know why I put the two together, right? And so the different things that we've been doing to try to work through that have been phenomenal, but it's just kind of like, okay, you can fake happiness, but you can't fake joy. And I think that until you really come to terms with having bitterness and really getting down into that and uprooting it, that you're just going to have surface level joy or happiness.
Wow, that's profound, right? So I just think about a quote I heard from a young woman years ago, and she said, "You can't heal what you don't reveal." So if you don't acknowledge it, then you can't address it. So it's important, even those ugly feelings that we don't want to acknowledge, it's okay to acknowledge that as long as we're working through it. Okay. Because if we don't, it's going to keep spilling out in other ways. So I'm curious, and we're going to start winding down soon. I hear a lot of Black women when I talk to them about joy, if I bring up issues of joy, there's this like thing like, I don't have time for that. Like, I'm too busy. I got my jobs. I got bills. I got, like, this is a whole bunch of stuff, right? So what would you say? So I'm going to ask each of you to respond to this. What would you say to a Black woman who is watching this right now and she says, I don't have time for joy. Like, I got a job. Like, I got to work. I'm too old for that. I don't, what would you say to her if she's watching right now? What would you say to her?
I would say joy unrealized is a life unfulfilled.
Mm.
because it's such an inside job, right? And I think a lot of times we try to experience secondhand joy through other people, right? So I have a really good friend who, whenever she talks about something that she's excited about or seemingly joyful about, it's because of something that maybe her kid did or accomplished, or something that her husband did. But it's just kind of like, okay, but what about you? You know, what are some of the things that you're doing for yourself to bring yourself joy? And she
Mm-hmm.
can't make the connection. It
Wow.
has to be something external that's
Yeah.
bringing her joy. Yeah.
Oh, that's so sad for her, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's sad. And when I hear Black women say that, it's heartbreaking to me because I think, what kind of life is that you're living, that you won't even give yourself permission to experience joy. So thank you, Terree. So what about the rest of you? What would you say to a Black woman watching this right now and saying, I don't have time for that. Mm-mm.
I think that pretend for a minute that you're a white woman, okay? Just pretend for a minute, right? You can't imagine that. You cannot imagine white women being like, oh no, my life is for work and for others. My life is not my own. There's too much to be done, and I cannot take time for myself. All right. If a white woman can have it, you can have it. It's anti-Black of you to sacrifice your joy, Roshini. Roshini, I think Roshini agrees with me. It's anti-Black of you to sacrifice your joy. I think that sometimes you just need to put yourself in other people's shoes. Can you hear them saying that? No. Right? Does it sound realistic for other people to say that? No. Then why Black women? Why you? That's what
Right. So again, reject the lie.
It's a lie.
Right. Okay, Roshini, so you're up next because she alluded to you.
She alluded to me because she said it was.
She like bounced it to you like a volleyball. She set it up for you.
What would I say to her? The first thing that went through my mind is, what is life without joy? Like if somebody said I don't have time for it, I would say, well, what are you doing here? Like what is the whole point of this? Like, what's the point? I've been laughed at by people when I say that I'm focused on joy. I've been laughed at when I say that I'm going to pick the easiest way to do things. I've been actively told by well-meaning people that my obligations and responsibilities should take precedence, and all that rest of that stuff needs to be something you push to the side and you never get. And I refuse. So what I would ask her is, what's the point of all of this? Because I think what I'd be hearing is her value proposition, which is understandable because Black women are kind of told this is what we're for. Her value proposition is in a space that she is saying that she's only worthy or enough or successful or all the things the society tells her if she does this list of things.
Yes.
And
that benefit other people.
Correct. And I reject that. You know, Alecia was talking about what brings you joy. I surround myself with pineapples as a almost 50-year-old woman because they make me happy.
Yes.
And my pineapple thing is literally an external emblem of my rejecting the fact that I shouldn't. Like that Care Bear right there, I went back to the store to get him because he was important. Okay. And that's a onesie and I've worn it. So that's what I would ask her, because I would be trying to get the light, something, an inkling of something to click in her mind to be like, if you're not going to get to joy ever, then what are you doing here?
Oh, yeah. What is your true well, I was going to say purpose, but Stephanie doesn't like when you say purpose. So I wasn't going to say, but why are you here? Right.
What are you doing with this thing that you're calling life?
Yes.
Are you going to get to the end of it and look back and think, good job for me? That's what I was supposed to do. And if that is not the case, you might want to rethink it where you are right now.
Yeah. Like, do you want to live a life of regret? And I was thinking about what Stephanie was saying in terms of living your best life now. Because I remember when I first started watching Stephanie on YouTube, she talked about why wait to retirement? You may not make it to retirement because these jobs are going to kill you. So we reject that. We live a life of ease. And I also just thinking about what you guys are saying is when I hear Black women saying, I don't have time for joy, it's heartbreaking because I think about how much our ancestors sacrificed for us to be here. And they would want us to experience joy. They would want us to experience ease. So to say, I don't have time for joy, I feel like it's almost a dishonor to them too. So it makes me very, very sad when I hear that. So thank you, Roshini. What about you, Alecia? What would you say to a Black woman watching this right now? Like, I don't have time for that.
Yeah. The first thing I would say, so I have two things I think I would say. The first one, going back to church culture and toxic church culture, I think there is this belief that the great joy we're supposed to experience is in the great by and by, right? It's after we die. And I think that, one, that's a lie. I believe in God. God put all this amazing stuff here. He gave me taste buds, ears to hear music, eyes to see beautiful people. I'm going to enjoy this life he gave me. And so for me, I think for me, it's an act of honor and worship to God to experience joy, because if God gave me the capacity for joy, I am to pursue joy. And I think that obviously, even when you read scripture, joy is brought up a lot. Like, again, I say rejoice, like these scriptures that we repeat, but then we're not really living out. It's like, we say rejoice, but we're dragging ourselves to places we don't want to be. We're putting ourselves in positions that wear us down, that exhaust us. And so I think that there's a lot of conditioning from the church that have conditioned Black women specifically to be the workhorses, to do the things, and God is going to bless you with your great reward when you pass away. But again, I reject that, and I say, no, I'm going to enjoy this beautiful life here and after I pass away. So that's the first thing I would say. Yeah, like I think that's a tool of white supremacy. Sorry, that's just how I feel. And the second thing that I would say is that joy is a matter of life and death. I was talking on Stephanie's channel about how Black women are leading in heart disease and cancers and all these different things that are stressful to the body that are because of stress. And us pursuing joy is not dessert. Us pursuing joy is not for play or like for recess. Like, we need joy to survive. And again, going back to scripture, like, joy is healing, like literally healing. When you are laughing, it's healing. When you're experiencing joy, when you're with Black women, right, and resting in their arms and in their laughter and their jokes and their smiles, like, there is healing there. And I think a lot of us are making I don't want to say making ourselves sick, but we're opting into becoming more sick because this culture that we live in is very toxic, and we think that it has to be hard. But really, I think that when we choose joy, honestly, I feel like if we use joy as the compass, it won't lead you astray. And joy is not the oppression of other people. Like, a lot of people like to say, you can't be too happy because everybody else is going to suffer. That's not joy. Joy does not take anything from anybody else. But if we're pursuing joy, I'm sorry, getting passionate. But if you're pursuing joy with with all your energy, with all your heart, with all your soul, like, I really do believe that it won't lead you astray. It will lead you to more joy, and that joy will ripple out into everybody else. You know what I'm saying? Like, a lot of us are bound by what we think is going to happen I'm going to lose everything if I choose to be happy. No, on the other side, again, I always say this, some things need to fall apart because they have to fall apart, because what you're holding on to wasn't meant for you in the first place. Let it go.
And it's killing you.
Yeah, and it's literally killing you. So those are two things.
Let it go. Let it go. And I want to say something too before I go to Leslie, is that my hope is that by what we're doing now is that we are ushering a movement of Black women in joy, right? So I don't know if you guys have already read Black Joy. Tracey was a guest on my channel as well, but she talks about how Black joy is revolutionary, right? And so my hope is that people watching this, we recognize that we are taking a stand about joy. And just like we talk about generational transmission of trauma, we're also talking about generational transmission of healing. So if you have had a lot of trauma in your life, in your family, my hope is that we're shifting that to that generational transmission of joy and healing as well. Okay. So Leslie, what about for you? What would you say to a Black woman watching this? And she's like, I don't got time for that.
Well, first of all, I want to say to my sisters, I love all of your answers. And I would say one thing is that you can't give from an empty cup. I was really, I grew up with my mother who centered her life on joy, and she was a nurse and became a human rights activist, and then a grassroots politician and a women's rights activist, and would give, 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 give. But she taught me to fill the cup. You got
Yeah.
to fill the vessel, and it
Yes.
gives you actually more capacity. So when you have so much going on, it's essential and essential to your well-being. And I would also say, Kamani, you talked about our ancestors and being able to travel to the continent, and my ancestry is from Jamaica, and going to Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire and Togo, Benin. There is so much joy in the communities, like in the villages, and with the simplicity. When we would travel to Ghana, the kids would be so joyful. It's our nature.
Yes.
So it's reclaiming your nature.
I love that. Reclaiming our nature. That's exactly what we're doing. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to read the comments. I'm going to go to each panelist to talk about products and services that you have for Black women to support our healing. And then we're going to close it out with a breathing exercise from Leslie from AfroFlowYoga. Okay. So I'm just going to read the comments and then we'll go from there. Okay. So let me see. Okay, watch from Washington, D.C. Hi, everyone, excited for this. Watch from San Diego. This is awesome and beautiful. Watching from Iowa, Maryland. Hello, ladies, Pittsburgh. Joy is not elusive or a place to get to. It is a state of being. I love the piece of defining joy for ourselves and getting really clear about that is, smells like, tastes like, feels like. Self-judgment is a robber of joy. Always consider the source. Great point, Roshini. Meditate. Affirmations are powerful. If you meditate, you learn to catch your thoughts and then change them. I've come to the awareness and knowing that everything Black women have told me about who we are everything that Black women have been told about ourselves is a lie. The only person who listens to about who I am is the God power in me. I've come into the awareness and knowing that everything this is a repeat. Okay. I don't know, it keeps repeating itself. Okay. Operating from a spirit of love will literally change every aspect of your life. The focus needs to be on you and your inner being. Okay. Why is bitterness looked upon with such disdain? Are we so addicted to sweetness that why have we become unwise to the potency and power and healing of things that are bitter? Yes, reject the list. Yes, it is godly to pursue joy. Alecia Renece just spoke off entire sermon. As a brother, I needed this tonight. Thank you all so much, sisters. Okay, well, I'm glad you were able to tune in, brother. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have each of the panelists to just briefly, less than a minute, share about any products or services they have to support the healing of Black women. And then Leslie is going to lead us off in a very brief breathing exercise. And then panelists, if you could just stay on just very briefly after Leslie finishes, okay? So I'll start with you, Alecia. If you could share what product services that you have for Black women.
Yes. So yes, I said before, I'm a multi-passionate artist. One of the things I do is sing. So if you want to, join my email list where I send love letters, I share other works by other Black women. I just recently wrote a book called Black Girl Creative, which is about, yay, I'm excited, which is about Black women getting back in touch with their creativity and getting back in touch with themselves, like recovering themselves. So the book, again, is called Black Girl Creative. And if you would like free music, you can join my email list at aliciarenece.me/feelgoodmusic. So aliciarenece.me/feelgoodmusic. Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you.
So Alecia, I'll put that information in the description section. So everybody, you'll have that information in the description section on YouTube. And Alicia's channel is fabulous, right? So subscribe to her channel as well. I love looking at her. She just radiates like joy, right?
Aww.
Like when she's talking, I'm like, oh my God, I just love your energy. So thank you, Alecia. Roshini.
Sure. You can find me on YouTube and Facebook at Glamazini. I bring the light and I bring the laughter. So some of the videos are going to be about topics like this, and other videos are going to be really silly, and I'm going to be goofing off. Get ready for both. I have paused my coaching, my one-on-one coaching for now. However, if you go to flow.page/Glamazini, you can find a way to access ebooks with my coaching material. I also have a free coaching community on Facebook for Black women. So if you're on a healing journey, join me and find your light. And yeah, if you go to flow.page/Glamazini, you can find links to all the things, including t-shirts, merch, ebooks, etc.
Awesome. And follow Glamazini. She is hilarious as well. She did this skit about, oh my God, it was Tabitha Brown. And I was just laughing out loud. I was like, oh my God, this is so hilarious. So please follow Glamazini as well. Stephanie Perry.
I have a new house sitter toolkit if for Black women who are interested in working a little bit less and getting some free accommodation through house sitting. That toolkit is at housesit.vicarious.com/toolkit. It's a long link, but house sitting is a way that I get to see the world and not have a job. So I recommend it.
Well, Stephanie, you're selling yourself short.
Okay.
Tell a little bit more about what you do.
I
Exodus
also-
Summit.
Yes.
I mean, all that you do.
Okay,
Please.
listen, y'all heard her. Okay, y'all know I can talk.
Please.
Okay, so you heard her. You heard her invite me. Okay, so I co-host a virtual summit called Exodus Summit for Black women interested in taking a sabbatical or a career break. Black women interested in moving abroad or bopping around as a nomad. The virtual summit happens in the fall, but we do things all the time. That community is at exodussummit.com/community for Black women. We are just about to celebrate 10,000 Black women inside of this community. It's a wonderful place on the internet where you can have conversations, as the women talked about today, where you can have conversations about things that other people may not quite understand, right? Where other people may not quite get it, may want to steal your joy a little bit. The Exodus Summit community is the place where the weirdo, right? The person who has the weird idea, the odd thing is celebrated. Welcome, not just welcomed, but celebrated.
Yes. And I just want to say to Stephanie that I had to say you were downplaying yourself. Like I felt like you wasn't showing your full light because you have done so much, right? So, you know, when you interviewed Anne-Marie and I about our masterclass, that I was like, this woman has brought so much healing and joy to so many Black women. And so, you know, we took a moment to just uplift you, but I was like, no, you have to share all that you have done because you have done a lot for Black women. So thank you, Stephanie. Terree.
So I don't have any products and services yet, but you can follow my journey on YouTube. So my channel name is Life After 50 with Terree. And I also have an Instagram page of the same name. So check me out there.
Yes. And Terree, can you share with the audience what your previous channel was?
Oh, yes. So my previous channel was Happy Girl Alaska. And I just shared my lifestyle. It was a lifestyle channel, but I also offered information to folks because a lot of people are kind of curious about Alaska. There are a lot of myths out there. They don't think Black people live in Alaska. So yeah, I still have those videos out there as well.
Yes. And I want to say, I never even thought of going to Alaska, but I watched your channel. I watched your channel and I thought it was so fascinating and everything. And now I watch your new channel as you talk about your adjustment and also just embracing and stepping into your confidence, right? You know, in terms of at our age, sometimes people are like, oh no, you're like, no, look at me. I'm doing my thing. I'm hanging out. I'm living and I'm creating the life that I want for myself. So follow Terree as well. So thank you so much. Leslie.
Yes, thank you. Well, I'm so excited to check you all out. AfroFlowYoga, we are at AfroFlowYoga, our social media handle on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, all the places. And we offer, my husband and I offer retreats. So we were in 2 months in Costa Rica. So come to Costa Rica in 2024. Next week, we'll be at Alvin Ailey in New York doing a workshop live with live music, dances of the African diaspora, and yoga. We'll be in Boston. We're in Boston on June 10th. We'll be in Baja, Mexico, doing a retreat in August. We'll be out by Dr. Kamani in August as well. And also, I co-teach a women's leadership intensive at the Omega Institute, upstate New York. And we have talks about doing a retreat in Belize, just saying
Oh,
it.
oh. And Leslie, what about the online classes?
Yes,
So
thank
we can
you.
access you.
Yes, so for those who don't want to come and travel, we do virtual classes right here in our studio. So those are weekly, bi-weekly classes. You have recordings. We have hundreds of recordings. You can come join a class. We have also membership for those, and we have a pay what you can option. So we have got plenty of things. We also have other teachers, Dr. Kamani, soon to be, who are teaching in various places. And we have a teacher training program and also an intensive to learn more about yoga and the dances and the rhythms in Africa. Many people don't know that the history of yoga is in ancient Egypt in Africa. So let's come and reclaim those beautiful ancient technologies that help us claim our joy.
Exactly. And I just want to remind ladies as we're winding down and going to the breathing exercise, AfroFlow Yoga is so powerful because you connect to the music. So when we think about cultural forms of healing, you have music and you have movement and you have connection to the divine. And so it's all of that together. It is so powerful. Sometimes people are like, oh, I don't want to do yoga. It's not like your typical yoga. It's not. It's like African dance and yoga together. It's very powerful, very healing. Please check it out. And last announcement before we go into breathing, as I mentioned before, S. Emery Archer and I are having a masterclass. The early registration will be in the link. Stephanie interviewed us this past week about the masterclass. So the masterclass is called Save Yourself, Channel Your Inner Harriet, so that you can leave your toxic, hostile job with your sanity and your coins. So again, the early registration link will be in the description section. And so what I'll do now is I'll turn it over to Leslie. We're going to have less than 5 minutes for breathing. Please take this moment for yourself to heal, right? Connect to your joy, connection to the breath, okay? So we're going to have a breathing exercise, and then we're just going to fade out. And then panelists, if you could just stay on for a moment, okay? Leslie.
Thank you, Kamani. I am going to stand because it gives me joy to stand.
Okay.
So you're welcome to sit or stand. And wherever you are, find your feet anchored to the floor, really rooted to the floor. And then I invite you to take one hand on your heart, one hand on your belly, and find your natural rhythm of your breath in your belly, breathing in your heart. And we're going to inhale through the nose, take a deep breath in, and then exhale out of the mouth. And breath is life. So as you inhale, think of bringing energy and light into your cells, your organs, and then exhale, relax whatever's not serving you. 2 more times. Deep breath in, fill. And exhale, maybe take a sigh, empty, let go. 1 more deep breath in. And exhale, sigh it out. And you can relax your arms. Let's begin to roll the shoulders around with the breath. Inhale and exhale. Just getting out any tension that you have in your shoulders. And then reverse, inhaling and exhaling. Just let it go and notice how you feel, any sensations that are arising. And then circle your head around. You might notice you have tension in your neck. And from your day, maybe you're on your computer. So you're going to begin to find some release. Inhale and exhale. Beautiful. And then from here, bring your head up and maybe begin to stretch your arms all the way up toward the sky. So this is like a power stance. Feel yourself like a tree, a powerful tree connected to our ancestors, to our roots, to the nourishment. And now what we're going to do is begin to flap our wrists and imagine like a tree shaking off old dead leaves. So things that rob you of your joy, just give it a shake. Shake, 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 as fast as you can. 20 seconds, just shake it off. You can shake whatever you want to shake. Just letting go, like a tree shaking off those leaves. 10 seconds, fast as you can. 9, stay with your breath. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, inhale. And then slowly exhale, bring it all the way down. And now place one hand back on your heart. Come back to your breath in your heart, feeling your rhythm. And let's take 4 breaths. As you inhale, inhale joy. Inhale. And then exhale that joy. So this is a giving and receiving. Inhale, joy again. And exhale. 2 more deep breaths in. Filling yourself up with that joy. And exhale. 1 more deep breath. And exhale. And take this moment to keep your eyes closed, your gaze soft. And envision yourself living your life in your fullest joy. Imagine that joy coming from the crown of your head all the way down, filling yourself up with that joyful light all the way down to your feet, all the way down to the roots. And imagine those whose shoulders you're standing on, rejoicing because you're standing in your power and your joy. Thank you all.
Thank you, Leslie. Thank you to my panelists. We're appreciative of all of you. Thank you for everyone who was here today, tuning in. And please share this video with other Black women, please, so we can share the joy, okay? So good night, everyone. And panelists, you can just stay on for a moment. Bye-bye.